Here we go then.
Awesome.
Hey, this is Kiran Agrahar from the Sparking Entrepreneur Show, and today we have Bethel Swift Minios with us. Bethel is a licensed and insured professional home organizer and the owner of Real Life Professional Organizing, which exists to support San Diego County clients with finding customized solutions to reduce stress in their space. With that being said, with so many accomplishments and accolades, let's hear it from Bethel. Bethel, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Such an honor.
Very, very curious to know about you, Bethel. So let's begin with your journey. Tell us about yourself. When did you start entrepreneurship? When did you choose being a coach? And now tell us about everything that you do today.
Sure. I think I always had, excuse me, an entrepreneurial streak. As a child, I always thought I would be a writer for birthday gifts and things. I was always making little books for my siblings and little homemade gifts and things. But as far as the professional organizer coaching journey begins, my mother struggles with hoarding disorder, as did my grandparents, her parents. So that's kind of how I became aware of sort of the problem. And we at one point sought professional help for her. And that's how I became aware that it was actually a career that you could help people declutter their spaces and go from overwhelm to a sense of calm. And so that's about 10 years ago, I started doing some training in the industry. And I was at that point a little too scared to go out on my own. I was worried about being able to find my own clients. So I subcontracted for others, but I ultimately went back to senior care and childcare. And then when I moved to California in 2016, I was still doing senior care and childcare. And ultimately, kind of towards the end of the COVID, which I guess is kind of still ongoing, but I decided to go ahead and strike out and do full-time professional organizing. My husband and I had enough saved up that we could try it for 3 months. And he said, if you can make it in 3 months, great. If not, then you'll need to get like a part-time job at least. So in those 3 months, I was able to make it replace my former income. And yeah, that's how I got here.
Wow. And you are also an author?
Yes. I have a book of poetry completely unrelated to organizing. It's called Conversations with Good Men, and it's basically poems about dating from my dating experiences. And I did it kind of like an act, or sorry, kind of like a play in 3 acts. So it kind of addresses the stages, and then there's also like spiritual poems and father-daughter poems and how those relate to my dating experience.
Got it. So we are going to talk about both of them because entrepreneurs also have life. To begin with, tell us about the profession that you are in when it comes to home organizing or decluttering, right?
Sure.
So can you please explain a client success story so that we get a better insight on how the things tend to transform when they work with you?
Absolutely, sure. So in professional organizing, there's lots of little niches that you can focus in on. Myself, I do packing and unpacking, which is pretty straightforward just when people are moving. It just helps them to have a much more organized move. They don't have to, worry. Kind of when professional movers, as a general rule, when they pack for you, they kind of just throw things in boxes and away you go. And when an organizer does it, there's usually some sort of inventory. It's very like, uh, very labeled and neat, and everything arrives, and then it's very easy to unpack. We also usually do some decluttering while we're packing, so that you're not paying to move things that you're not going to use. I also am heavy on the decluttering side, so I do a lot of downsizing for seniors as well as de-hoarding. Not all professional organizers are able to work with hoarding cases, but I am, because I have a lot of personal experience, and then I also have a considerable amount of training and reading and podcast and YouTube listening. And so with that, uh, the success stories can really range, but you will often see, the after is not as pretty as, like, I don't know, the home edit or Pinterest or anything like that. But you really can take people from very unlivable situations, of extreme overwhelm, down to very functional spaces. And that's kind of the thing. So when you first enter into a hoarding home, you're looking for all the like things that need to that are safety issues. You know, are there things on the stove? Are the exits blocked? Things like that. And so you address those issues first, and then you kind of go from there. And it really is as much as far as the client will kind of let you take them, and you always work at the client's pace. So I would say that kind of that success story looks very different from person to person, whether that person is trending towards minimalism or if they have a real love of abundance. How can you incorporate that love of abundance, but putting limits? A lot of times with hoarding disorder in particular, there is a love of abundance, a lot of interest in a lot of things. People who struggle with hoarding are often very creative people, so they see the potential in every item. They love information. And so you can work with that, but what is usually has been eroded a bit is that decision-making ability to really only hone in on the things that you will use and you will love in this moment, you know, not 5 years down the road, not 5 years in the background, but everyone is really on that spectrum at some point. And a lot of times the coaching is just offering that person permission to let go of something. You know, yes, you got that holiday card. It was very sweet of that person to think, you know, of you and to send you that. But if you don't want to keep it, if the only reason you're keeping it is out of guilt, then go ahead and let it go because the message has already been received.
Totally, totally. And how long is basically one coaching interaction with you? Does it last for months or what?
Sure, that can range very much as well. So I always start with a free consultation. I do phone or Zoom free consultation. It's usually about 20 minutes. Some people do prefer an in-home consultation, and if it is a hoarding case, I do often do an in-home consultation, which is paid, and that's usually like an hour. And then from there, if it's, you know, very simple, one room, a closet, something like that, it might be as short as one session. But if it's a larger project, you know, full home packing or unpacking or dehoarding or downsizing, then it can end up being several sessions. There's also what a term called chronic disorganization, and that just means where basically things just kind of keep piling up or getting to that stage, and so you need someone to kind of come in regularly and just help you knock it back, you know. And so that can tend to often be clients who struggle with ADHD, or other mental health issues, or diversity on the spectrum. I'm forgetting of the word. There's a word for it now. It'll come to me later. But yeah, so it's kind of working with them and like helping them make sure they're on top of their mail, making sure they're streamlining their processes, just helping them kind of navigate. And for that, I do offer a subscription package, which is something I think a lot of entrepreneurs are starting to delve into, is that idea of the reoccurring, where you're not having to come and ask the person for you know, would you like more hours? You know, they just always have a set number of hours that they come back for. And so that's something I'm offering now as well. So yeah.
Got it. Got it. So can you please help us with understanding the importance of decluttering, right? Can you
Yeah.
please help us understand how it is going to help us reduce stress in the space? So please explain.
Sure, absolutely. So as again, there is a range of people's clutter tolerances, basically. And some people's clutter tolerance is very low. They need a minimalist space. They don't want to see a bunch of items out. Some people's clutter tolerance is very high. On the lower end, we can help. Sometimes it's a matter of just organizing to your preference, meaning like if you don't want to see your things, then, you know, we put them behind closed cupboards, but not just you know, obviously just like tucking things under the bed or, or into the cupboards. We're putting them in such a way that when you need those taxes from 2 or 3 years ago, you can find them. Or when you know, need something, you know, but you just don't want to see it all. And that is kind of like a visual noise that can kind of stress people out because they're just seeing all the things they have to do. That's a big one, especially for people who struggle with ADHD. If they feel like if they don't see it, then it doesn't exist, so they won't do it. So then they will leave all their papers out that they have to do. They'll leave all, but at some point it ceases to be effective because now you just see a pile of stuff. You don't see the individual to-dos, but they will have a lot of fear around putting those things away because they then fear that they will forget to do them. So then we will work with them to find like visual cues, smaller visual cues that we can put up, whether it's like a colorful list or, thing of Post-its with different to-dos, and then we can file the actual paperwork and they pull it out when they're ready to work on it. Things like that, just to help them kind of adjust. And then obviously on the heavily cluttered side, the more hoarding spectrum, that's when it can start to really just impair your life. If you can't, you can't cook on your stove, you can't have repairmen in to fix your heater or whatever might be out, because if you're embarrassed or you're afraid of losing your home or anything like that. I have had a client call me because they fell in their kitchen, and the EMTs were not able to enter from the main door. They had to go to the second floor, break a window, and navigate their way through the very narrow path to reach the client, and then try to get the client onto a stretcher and get the client out. So it can be very imperative to one's life and success.
Totally, totally. We get it now. So let's talk about some tips. What would be some tips that you would suggest that listeners should take to make sure that they are well organized?
Absolutely. So wherever you are on the spectrum, you just start small and you start. So some people are even, an interesting side of the conversation is digital overwhelm. And I think a lot of us deal with that, whether, even if we're perfectly fine with our in-home space, the digital side of things, having way too many photos, we all screenshot things. Oh, I got to remember to do this. And then we never delete the screenshots, things like that. Emails get out of control very quickly. So there's little steps you can do, like if you're in the pickup line at your kid's school waiting to pick them up, you can just delete 100 photos a day that you don't need, or 100 emails. Usually the best way to do this is just to schedule some time. So whether it's at pickup time or anywhere where you have pockets of time, you're waiting for an appointment, or just if you have a standing like a bus ride or something, if you don't commute in your car, just maximizing those little pockets of time to do a little bit of decluttering. And in your home, you can do the same thing, sort of like a 10-minute tidy thing, and just start there, where you just depending on where you're at, again, it could be like a trash sweep. If the trash is not in the trash, then you do a quick trash sweep. If your home is farther along than that, it might just be like, okay, I'm just going to return things to their homes if they already have assigned homes. If they don't have assigned homes, then you would just say, okay, I'm going to pick 5 items or 10 items, and I'm going to assign them a home. And while I'm assigning them a home, and I'm look at each item and say, do I really use this? Do I really love this? And do I really need this? And if so, then I'm going to find it at home. And always when we start and we're doing the process together, I usually we go for a little bit bigger of a chunk of time, and you can work up to that on your own, of course. And we usually separate out our piles from donate, trash, recycle, electronic recycling, specialized plastic recycling. And I handle those for my clients when I go. I handle all the donations and the electronic recycling, unless it's like something very large where you would have to pay, and the specialized plastic recycling. And then we have one for trash, and we have one for keep in that room that we're working in, and also keep in another room that we're not working in. And that's the one that a lot of people will forget about, because they will start, especially if you have ADHD, you will say, oh, this goes in the other room. And then you'll go, and then I won't see you again for 15 minutes. So we have to just put it all in one box or bag or whatever, or pile, that it goes in other places, so that we finish what we've started in that room, and then we can move on to the next room. Okay.
Got it. Got it. And what are the mental benefits of doing this?
Oh gosh, they're so plentiful. It's funny, when I talk to clients, they all give me a different range of reasons for why they value the service. And one woman said, like, well, I just won't go through my mail unless you're here. Like, then that's when I'll go through my mail. And mail in particular can be a particularly difficult thing for people. Some people have received things in the mail that were really hard to receive, and so then they have kind of like a natural I guess like an emotional reaction to opening the mail. And a lot of times it's subconscious. They're not like thinking like, oh my gosh, I don't want to open my mail because there might be something terrible, but it's in the back of their mind. And so it's just kind of like in the ADHD world, they talk about body doubling quite a bit. And that's just where you have someone else there with you to just help you buckle down and do what you need to do. And the mental health benefits are just manifold. I have one client, she lost her husband during the course of our relationship, and we started it, they had moved from a house into a 2-bedroom apartment, and it was just very, very cramped and uncomfortable to live in. And so we started working together while her husband was still alive, and we got things pared down quite a bit. And once he passed, she was actually able to, based on the coaching that she'd already received, go ahead and handle everything else that was his, choose which things of his she wanted to keep, to remember him by, but let a lot of it go. And she moved and set up that new space to fit her needs, based on the coaching that she received. And so obviously horrible, lots of emotions that she's having to deal with and all of that, but she's not having to deal with that extra stress on top of it. She now knows how to handle that part.
Totally, totally. But then, thank you so much for sharing that. Let's move on to the next topic that we were about to discuss. Tell us about your book.
Sure, sure. So, Conversations with Good Men is my first book of poetry. For the entrepreneurs who are listening, I did go ahead and create my own press. You don't have to do that in order to publish a book, but I wanted to. So, the press is Swift and Sparrow Press. As of today, I do not publish other individuals. At some point, I might. So currently, this is the only book that I have. I had the misfortune of choosing International Women's Day 2020, March 8th. I thought it would be, oh, this will be so nice to launch my, kind of feminist poetry book on International Women's Day. However, that was the day before San Diego shut down for COVID. So we had a nice little launch and then nothing, crickets. So marketing has been an extreme challenge. And it's something that I'm still working on, still really struggling with a little bit because the organizing is kind of my bread and butter. So it's really hard to carve out the time for the kind of long game that a book is. One thing you will hear said often in the publishing industry is that the thing that sells your first book is your third book. So obviously I have 2 more books to go. And so that's kind of one of the major challenges. And I actually do want to write a book on organizing as well. I don't have a talent. I mean, excuse me, I don't have a title yet, but it will be something to do with hope and hoarding because there are so many books out there about hoarding that seem to be kind of more capitalizing on the voyeuristic side of hoarding, like, ooh, these people, how can they live like this kind of thing. And I would like to give more of like a lifeline for people who might be struggling with it.
Totally, totally. Let us do some marketing for your book. So, where to get your book?
Sure. So you can buy it in most stores. I went wide with it. That's a big thing in the indie industry, is to not just be relying on Amazon. It is available on Amazon, and you can also order it through Barnes and Noble and various different stores. If you go to my website, bethelswift.com, you'll be able to see it there. And yeah, it's an audiobook, ebook, and print.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, next question to you is about, tell us about the misconceptions. What are some misconceptions about you as a coach, as a professional organizer in some way?
Sure. So for me personally, a lot of times people think I am too young to be able to help them. A lot of times you're working with older population, and they kind of think that, what are you going to be able to tell me because you're, younger. And that's where kind of my training and things can come in, where I can explain to them that I can help. I am also currently the NAPO San Diego chapter president. So that kind of helps some people feel a little better, the title. And I did certification through ASPO, which is the American Society of Professional Organizers, but they are actually international as well. If anyone's interested in, in this industry, they offer a fairly low cost entry and decent certification to start with. It's a good place. The other one is NAPO, and then I do plan to become a member of the ICD, which is the Institute for Chronic Disorganization, which sounds like they're going to teach you to be chronically disorganized, but it's the other way around. They teach you how to help people with chronic disorganization. And then as far as misconceptions about working with a professional organizer in general, the biggest thing is people think that you are going to ask them to throw away all their stuff, or you're going to ask them to be a minimalist. And I don't do that. If minimalism is your goal, I will help you get there. But if you are a lover of abundance, then I'm going to help you just be surrounded by the things you use, love, need, etc., and make sure that it's not impairing your activities of daily living. You can still cook, you can still clean, you can still move around your house without, a risk of tripping or falling, that sort of thing.
Got it, Bethel. So now tell us about who should reach out to you and how should they reach out?
Sure. So if anybody who is looking to declutter, or if they're moving and they just need straight packing or unpacking help, I do that as well. But primarily decluttering. And if they are looking to work independently and just have that coaching, I do offer a virtual service now. So they can, anybody, whether they're in San Diego County or international, they can go to my website, which that website is reallifeprofessionalorganizing.com, and they can sign up for a free Zoom or phone consultation. And if any of the available times don't work for them, especially if it's like an international thing, they can just shoot me a call or text. They can call me or they can email me, and we can set up a different time.
Totally. All this information is present on the website?
Yes. So yes, all of that is on the organizing website. Mm-hmm.
Okay, wonderful. So final question for you, Bethel, today. Tell us about the action steps. What do you suggest the listener does after hearing this conversation in order to grow their business or to grow in life?
Yes. So if you're looking to grow your business, there's getting organized will always help with that. If you're looking on getting into the actual organizing industry, those organizations that I mentioned before are very helpful. And then networking, that's been the biggest thing. So many organizers, the nice thing about the professional organizing industry is that most organizers have a community over competition type of mindset. So they are not, going to be nervous to talk to you or afraid you're going to steal their business or anything like that. They will network. And then if, like, for example, there's other organizers that don't like to pack. So if they get a packing job, they will call me and say, hey, do you want this client? Things like that. And if I get a job that they prefer, like a garage in August, then I can send that to them.
Totally. Thank you so much, Bethel, for sharing all the insights. It was a pleasure to meet you today and an honor to host you. Such a wonderful time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You're an awesome host.
Thank you again. With that said, I am your host, Kiran Agrahar, signing off. You guys take care. Bye, guys.
Thank you so much.
You may stop the recording as well.
Okay, let me see how to do that.